UFC Fight Night Vegas 19, Blaydes versus Lewis takes place this weekend, so I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card. Now, this card is not the most stacked in the world, however, I can see this one being an absolute barn burner, start to finish, because there are so many fun matchups, so let's waste no more time and get straight in there with the early prelim opener of Sergey Spivak versus Jared Vandeira. Sergey Spivak, younger guy, even though Jared Vandeira is making his debut coming off the Contender Series with a nice finish there in the first round by ground and pound. Jared Vandeira's pretty underrated as a heavyweight. He's got some good experience. He's lost some fights on the regional scene. I watched him get Kimura'd at one point in the 5th round of a fight where he looked like he was starting to slow down, which was a very bad one, but still Jared Vandeira is a pretty good fighter. He's got experience. He's got power. He's got cardio as well to go into those later rounds. To get 5-round experience, even while losing as a heavyweight on the regional scene, that's something that doesn't go around often, but I do believe that Sergey Spivak, being the younger guy here, is going to get the job done over Jared Vandeira. He's coming off a big win against Carlos Felipe, where he basically dominated him start to finish. I know Felipe maybe edged the first round of the bout, but eventually Spivak starts getting to his opponents. He's a bit of a smaller heavyweight, so he can push the pace in those later rounds. He's somewhat a knockoff Marcin Tybura, and he lost to Marcin Tybura anyway, and Marcin Tybura gave him a bit of a fight. It was a close one, but Marcin Tybura definitely won it, dominating in the grappling exchanges towards the end of the fight. Tybura Spivak, but I still believe that Spivak can Spivak Vandeira. You know what I'm saying? I think you'll get to him in the later rounds, start working his grappling. He's getting in better and better shape as a heavyweight. He's getting better and better every single time we see him, because as we forget, he's still 26 years of age. In the heavyweight division, he showed great grappling against Taito Ivasa. He showed great grappling in his last fight against Carlos Felipe, who's now done quite well since then. I do believe that Sergey Spivak is going to get the jump over Jared Vandeira here. Just being able to manhandle him against the cage, use his takedowns, put a pace on him, be a little bit more patient. I know Jared Vandeira is used to guys blitzing forward at him. That's not something that Sergey Spivak's going to do. He'll wait on the outside, he'll feint, he'll try and land some little shots here and there, working his way to an eventual finish in the later rounds. I think that he will get a finish here by submission in the later rounds. Just as I saw Jared Vandeira lose before, I believe Sergey Spivak will sink in a submission win in the 3rd round after Jared Vandeira just gets a little bit tired of being taken down by Sergey Spivak in the 2nd and 3rd round. I think he'll turn over, and I think Sergey Spivak will earn himself the win by submission in the later rounds, or TKO, but I'm going to settle it on submission. I think he'll get the job done there, because Jared Vandeira's got a pretty good chin. I've seen him take some big shots. I think Sergey Spivak will win by exhausting Jared Vandeira and earning himself a submission in the later rounds. Moving on up the card to Amian Zahabi versus Draco Rodriguez. I'm picking Draco Rodriguez. Now, is that or is that not because his nickname is the Great Dracolini? I'm not too sure. However, I am sure. I believe he's way better than Amian Zahabi, now getting a bit of an older guy, and he's lost 2 in a row now. One to Ricardo Ramos, which we all remember by that spinning elbow straight on the jaw that put him completely senseless, and then he lost his last fight as well, which was a little bit of a lackluster performance against Morales. Vince Morales, I believe it was. There he is. It was a little bit lackluster from Amian Zahabi. I was expecting him to get the job done in that fight. No, I think I actually did pick Morales, but still, I thought he would do a little bit better in that fight, but he just seemed to have nothing in the tank, and I just don't sense that he wants to be in there sometimes, because I'm looking in the 3rd round of his fight with Vince Morales, and he's clearly losing the fight, and he's got a minute left on the clock, and he's circling around the outside, feinting, and he doesn't have it in him, I don't think. And I feel like just because his name is Zahabi, I know for us Zahabi's a well-known name in the MMA world, I'm not going to buy into that, and I feel like he's going to lose this weekend to the great Dracolini Draco Rodriguez, who has a ton of amateur experience. He's only lost 1 fight in his career, I believe, to Tony Gravely, which is no shame there. Tony Gravely is an absolute savage, and he beats a lot of people, and he lost that one in the later rounds as well, so he's got some experience going into deep waters. He's got amazing experience in boxing as well. He's had some boxing fights there on YouTube. He's had a bunch of amateur experience, and there's a lot of hidden experience on Draco Rodriguez's record that you wouldn't normally notice. He's got a ton of combat sports experience, and he's still a young guy at 24 years of age. This fight got extended another 2 months. I think that only favors the younger guy who's able to get right back into another camp, rather than a guy in Amian Zahabi who's getting a little bit up there in age at this point in his career at 33 years of age. I feel like Draco Rodriguez just going to go out there and piece him up, and after Ricardo Ramos dropped him badly with that spinning elbow, I do believe that Draco Rodriguez is going to go out there, repeat what he did on the Contender Series, and get a clean, quick KO in the first round against Amian Zahabi with crisp boxing combinations. He's got the reach advantage as well, and as a guy who's got boxing experience, he's going to be a master at using that, I'm sure. Don't see Amian Zahabi winning this one. Draco Rodriguez seems pretty well-rounded. Even to take Tony Gravely to a 5th round shows that you're somewhat good. I like Draco Rodriguez here getting the first round TKO to start us off with the first finish of the card by TKO. I believe Draco Rodriguez gets the first KO of the night and finishes him in the first round. Moving on up the card, Aleskei versus Jamal Emmers. Now, Jamal Emmers is sneakily good at fighting, okay? And some people might not recognize him, but he is very good. He's got a ridiculous reach for his size, 5'8". He's not even 5'8". He's taller than 5'8". I believe he's probably about 5'9", 5'10". So the $4 billion company UFC has already lied to me here. He's going to be taller than Aleskei, most likely, or around the same height, not shorter than him, like it says here on the Google page of a $4 billion website or a $4 billion company. They don't know how to measure their fighters. Jamal Emmers is a massive tall guy, 74-inch reach advantage as well, or 74-inch reach. He's got the reach advantage over Aleskei. Aleskei's just looked like he's aging in his last few fights, and that does worry me at this point because he's 35 years of age, and Jamal Emmers has some sneaky wins on his resume, and some sneaky close losses as well to Giga Chikadze. He took the fight on short notice against Giga Chikadze. Looked pretty good there, did really well against him, went to a split decision. It was a very close fight. Giga Chikadze was having some trouble here and there, looking to get past the range of Jamal Emmers. Jamal Emmers also has another good win over another fighter. Let me find his name right now. His name is, give me 1 second here, Corey Sandhagen. And there's one more that you don't quite realize because a lot of people look for bantamweight names. I found a well-known lightweight on Jamal Emmers' record. Alexander the Great Hernandez, he has been beaten by. So Jamal Emmers has done very well. Beaten Alexander Hernandez, beaten Corey Sandhagen. He's beaten some great opponents. He's lost here and there by TKO. He got submitted at one point. He lost in the 5th round against Thiago Moises. These are much bigger guys, and I feel like now at featherweight, Jamal Emmers is going to get the job done over Aleskei reasonably well over the 3 rounds, and I can see him cruising his way to a unanimous decision win. I don't think at 35 years of age he has the cardio in his tank, Aleskei, to get through a 3-round fight against a guy who's just going to be jabbing and straight to in his face-off. I don't like this one for Aleskei. I think Jamal Emmers, being the younger guy in his prime, looking good every fight, I think he gets the job done by unanimous decision. I think he's a good favourite, and I trust him to get the win over an older Aleskei who looks like he's aging as well, slowing down a little bit in his last few fights. I'm going with Jamal Emmers by unanimous decision, schooling Aleskei over the 3 rounds and outlanding him every single round. Moving on to another fight, Shayna Dobson versus Casey O'Neill. I'm actually going to go with Casey O'Neill here. Now, I know that some people looking for underdogs are basically just going to pick Shayna Dobson anyway, because she seems to get the underdog wins quite often. She came off a massive underdog win in her last fight against Maria Agapova. She was expected to lose. Maria Agapova looked like that she knew that Shayna Dobson was going to lose, just because she came out there in the first round and just threw every single move she had with little to no respect for Shayna Dobson whatsoever. Just blitzed forward, landing crazy shots. It was autistic. It really was autistic game planning from Maria Agapova, and I feel like it was more of her mistake blowing herself out in the first round looking for a quick finish than it was Shayna Dobson getting an upset win. She kind of just took advantage of a gassed out Maria Agapova, got her to the ground, but Casey O'Neill, a lot more patient, doesn't have to go for finishes, cruises her way to decisions here and there. She's beat a couple of good girls in her last 2 fights, 5-1, 6-3, not the best in the world, but 5-1 record, not too shabby. I do believe she's going to go out there and get it done because Shayna Dobson does seem to lose a lot, and I know that she got a win against Maria Agapova, and maybe she's turned a new corner now that she's gone 4-4. I just don't see this one going her way. I think she's going to get outlanded. Casey O'Neill training at Tiger Muay Thai as well. It's a great gym. I think they'll have the game plan necessary to beat Shayna Dobson. She's got takedown defense. I just don't see Shayna Dobson winning this one. She got KO'd by Priscilla Capoeira. She lost to Sabina Marzo. She lost to Lauren Mueller. She lost to Roxanne Modafferi, which is a massive red flag, but still. Somehow Roxanne Modafferi wins fights for some bizarre reason. The only risky bit here is that Casey O'Neill's coming up from strawweight and Shayna Dobson's a flyweight, but they're around the same size anyway. So maybe Casey O'Neill will just end up staying at flyweight, but I do believe she gets the job done by unanimous decision over Shayna Dobson. I know it's Shayna Dobson, but I'm not going to take the underdog here. I do believe that she is going to lose this weekend against Casey O'Neill, who will get the job done by unanimous decision, barely outlanding her every single round, but I expect it to be quite close. I am going to go with Casey O'Neill by unanimous decision, because as much as people like the underdog win of Maria Agapova, it was kind of Maria Agapova's retardation that led to Shayna Dobson getting the win there. She just completely gassed herself out, throwing like a maniac in the first round. It was crazy to watch, but still. Moving on up the card, I've got Casey O'Neill by unanimous decision. Nate the Train Landwehr versus Julian Erosa on the prelims here. I wish this one was on the main card, in all honesty, because this is guaranteed chaos. Now, I want to tell you this. There aren't many great underdogs on this card. However, there are some great odds that you need to beat to changing at some point, because they have Nate Landwehr right now and Julian Erosa as evens. I strongly believe that Nate Landwehr is going to end this fight as a favourite. Nate the Train! I need to say it at least once. I'm sorry, it needs to get out of my system. That's not the reason I'm picking him, just so I can say his nickname out loud when he wins. But I do believe that Nate Landwehr is going to go out there, get the TKO win. Julian Erosa's been KO'd, 5-6 times in his career now. He actually has some decent wins, coming off a big win against Sean Woodson. Wasn't supposed to be in the UFC, got cut after he got KO'd by Julio Arce, who just outlanded him every single round. And then eventually TKO'd him with a head kick, actually, in the third round, pretty brutally. Julian Erosa got cut, won a fight on the regionals, stepped in on short notice against Sean Woodson, got the job done there by submission in the third round. He was losing, but he was doing well, and he was eventually getting to Sean Woodson. But I just think Nate Landwehr has something that Sean Woodson doesn't have, which is the ability to plant and throw back and have something for Julian Erosa to respect. Because Sean Woodson, very tall guy, very rangy guy, not too much pop in his shots. I know he's got some finishes in his record, but they're like flying knees. I feel like Nate Landwehr has the style where he's going to plant as Julian Erosa's trying to pressure and tag him with something big, and it's going to change the way Julian Erosa fights, just like Julio Arce did. When Julian Erosa knows he can take your power, he's just going to walk through it. But Nate Landwehr can crack, and he showed that against Darren Elkins, who's always tough. Didn't get the KO there, but showed that in that second and third round, he can put it together, stand his ground, crack with big shots. It's a very close fight, but I think as evens, the only way I'd pick Julian Erosa here is if he was like a big underdog. And I think that's how these odds are going to end up. So you're going to have to beat the odds here. I think I'd say bet now on Nate Landwehr. I know maybe you betting will change the odds, now I've told you to. However, I do believe that Nate Landwehr is going to end this one as a reasonably comfortable favourite. He ran the M1 gauntlet and beat everyone there. I know there were some close split decisions, but I thought they could have gone either way. Damage versus control, certain things value other things, but still Nate Landwehr is a savage, ran the M1 gauntlet against great competition, beat all of them. I know he got chinned by Herbert Burns with a knee up the middle in his debut at UFC Copenhagen, I believe it was. But since then, he's come back against Darren Elkins. As much as I didn't like the win against Darren Elkins, now I keep seeing Darren Elkins beat people. It looks not too bad. I mean, Darren Elkins coming off a win against Luis Eduardo Gregori, who was like 11-1 at the time, I believe. So Nate Landwehr's win is looking pretty good. It's not like some done Darren Elkins. However, I would have liked him to have made it a little bit more clear. But Darren Elkins is no joke, man. He really is no joke. As much as people like to rib on him, he's still a tough guy. He still brings it. He tries to scrap. I don't see Julian Erosa going for takedowns here. I think he's going to try and pressure Nate Landwehr, get in his mush. He's got a lot of scar tissue as well, Julian Erosa. So I think Nate Landwehr's elbows that he landed on Darren Elkins as well to open up those cuts are going to be a huge factor. Not only because they're going to open up cuts, but also because if this fight goes to a decision, I believe Nate Landwehr is going to get an advantage purely because he's sliced up the face of Julian Erosa with all that scar tissue. Landwehr's taken way less damage in his career. I think he'll get the job done here, though, without the need of the judges' help, by second round TKO. He takes a round sometimes to ease his way in. He's got some third round finishes in his career at M1. He's got some second round finishes in his career at M1. Majority of them come around the second round by TKO, where he starts to find his groove and get his attitude going. Start looking over at Dana White, say he's ready for that island, all that kind of stuff. Screaming out loud, making woo noises. Nate Landwehr's in his element after he eases into that first round. And I think in the second round, after getting outstruck barely in the first, Julian Erosa's going to try and put the pressure on Nate Landwehr, and Landwehr's going to crack him coming in and get the TKO finish. In the second round, Julian Erosa's been KO'd too many times for me to trust him. And I think that Nate Landwehr's got a little bit more significant power than Sean Woodson, who scoots around the outside, tries to hit you as you're coming in. Sean Woodson's got a style where if he doesn't invest and get your respect, you will just walk him down, because to move around on the back foot that much the way Sean Woodson does, it's going to tire you out, and that's eventually what happened in the third round of their bout. But Nate Landwehr, I think, doesn't have that problem, and I think he'll go out there and get the job done against Julian Rosa. He had a fight booked before this against Movsar Evloev. Now he's got it shimmied back a little bit, so he's had a longer camp overall as well against a pressure fighter, which is always going to favour him. I'm going with Nate Landwehr by TKO in the second round against Julian Rosa. Moving on up the card, Eddie Wineland versus John Castaneda. I'm going with John Castaneda, and again, he's not an underdog, but these odds are even, and he will end up as the favourite. So this is another one on the list, other than Nate Landwehr versus Julian Rosa one, where you've got to kind of bet now. I'd bet now on John Castaneda, because Eddie Wineland is not going to get picked as a favourite here by people looking to bet on this card, because he just got baptised by Sean O'Malley at his ripe old age of, 36 now? In the bantamweight division, 36 years of age. Not only did he just get completely smoked out cold by Sean O'Malley, that is a career-changing knockout right there. I know he's been TKO'd before, and he's shelled up, like Renan Barão hit him with the spinning back fist to the spinning back kick to the face, and then he shelled up on the ground, ate some follow-up shots. But since then, he's never really been put out like that. And when you get put out that cold, as an older guy who's always sort of been able to take the shots on the chin, at least get TKO'd and shell up a little bit, now you're going out cold, getting switched off. Sean O'Malley might have a different kind of power. I just don't trust that chin coming into this one, not only because he's 36 and he's coming off a KO loss, but also because Eddie Wineland has a style where his hands are down by his waist and he has to take the shots. He has to. Eddie Wineland has to take the shots. He has to take one, give one back. He's a scrapper. I don't think you can have that same style with your gunslinging hands down by your waist on your fucking holster, ready to throw at all times with your chin out there, when you've just been KO'd badly in the first round. I think he's going to be a little bit hesitant to go out there the same way. And John Castaneda looked good against Nathaniel Wood in his debut on short notice. Didn't look amazing. Got outclassed every round, don't get me wrong, but he stayed in there, stayed pressuring, looking for wins, looking for shots. He showed toughness. I know he's lost outside on the regional circuit, but he had one split decision to Jose Alde, I believe his name was, which is actually Jose Aldo's evil twin brother. Jose Alde went to a split decision with him. I believe Dana White saw it as the fact that John Castaneda won, so brought him in anyway. He also won on a contender series, but never got a contract before, so Dana White brought him in because of that. I like John Castaneda. He's the younger guy. He's taken way less damage. He's got the reach, while being a shorter guy as well. I believe he's going to go out there and tag Eddie Wineland a couple of times, and just have Eddie Wineland fighting a little bit skittish on the outside, and not wanting to gunsling like he usually does after a big KO loss. The momentum's on John Castaneda's side. He lost a decision, not a brutal KO. I believe John Castaneda gets this one done as the younger up-and-comer. More to learn, more to evolve. I think he gets it done here, and these odds are even, so I'd bet on it right now if I were you. Moving on, up the card, Drakkar Klose versus Luis Pena. Now, Drakkar Klose, again, another sneakily good fighter, because you don't realise it, but he's beaten a lot of good guys, and especially a lot of good guys, in comparison to Luis Pena, who has beaten a different kind of section of people. I think we can all agree, okay? He's beaten some good guys, old Luis Castaneda. Or, not Luis Castaneda, sorry, Luis Pena. Beaten some decent guys. Had a split decision loss to Matt Frivola that people went crazy over. I picked Luis Pena in that bout. I didn't mind that the fight went to Matt Frivola. I thought it was a close one. Could go either way. They ended up going the way of Matt Frivola. He beat Steve Garcia Jr., making his debut. Matt Wyman, 16-7, took him to the third round as well. Matt Wyman, older guy now. Don't take him to the third round, please, I beg of you. Steven Peterson to a decision, 17-7. He's just fought a different kind of tier of fighter. Do you understand me here? He's fought a different level of guy than when I look over to Drakkar Klose's last few wins. Christos Giagos, Bobby Green, Lando Venata, Mark Jacase. You know what I mean? These are good wins to get on your record, and just completely different caliber of opponents than Luis Pena. And Luis Pena's making it look close. Don't get me wrong, Drakkar Klose is making it look close, no pun intended, but still he's getting a job done against great opponents like Mark Jacase, who was always a savage, had a great fight with Rafael Fiziev, even won the third round of that bout. It was a great performance, the toughest fight of Fiziev's career so far, other than the Mustafayev one, I'd assume. But great performance by Drakkar Klose. He also lost to Benil Dariush in his last bout, but he was winning. In the second round, landed the big shot on Benil, but then got a little bit overconfident, got cracked back. Dariush showed how much of a savage he is, but then again, Luis Pena's a guy in this division who likes to take the back, control you there. Drakkar Klose is a little bit dirty on that when someone's got his back. He's a finger manipulator. He likes to grab on the fingers, twist him about, acts like he's going to break him and stuff like that. He did that to Beneil Dariush, and it stopped Beneil Dariush from being able to do anything on his back. As much as it's a cheat, it's something that Drakkar Klose does, so I kind of have to factor it into this bout as well. He's a finger manipulator. He just is. He twists at the fingers. Whenever Dariush had his back, he was twisting him up. Dariush was talking about it in his post-fight speech, and you can see it sometimes. Drakkar Klose reaching at his fingers, tearing him apart, not letting him get grips in, not letting him try and fight a choke, just twisting up those fingers. And I feel like Luis Pena is not going to be able to do much if he gets the back of Drakkar Klose. Plus, Drakkar Klose is a big guy, looking in good shape now, a little bit older, so maybe this is a little bit of a passing of the torch, and we find out that Drakkar Klose was never meant to be in the lightweight division, but I do believe he gets this one done, even with the reach disadvantage. I think he'll chop at the legs, go to work, and beat Luis Pena by unanimous decision. Decision bets for Drakkar Klose are often a good bet. I wouldn't even bet on him winning this one because I assume he's a pretty big favourite here. Let me just find out real quick. No odds for Drakkar Klose. Okay, that's very interesting stuff. I'm so glad they left me hanging like that in front of all of you guys. But still, I assume he's going to be a reasonable favourite, especially because Luis Pena taking this fight on short notice. And I think the best bet to make is that he gets it done by decision if you're looking to make some money rather than just betting on Drakkar Klose, because he never gets finishes. I think he talked about this on Sean O'Malley's podcast. He hasn't had a finish since like 2014, 15, 13, something like that. He doesn't get finishes. He schools people to decision, makes it close in his name, but I think over Luis Pena, it's just a different level of guy compared to the ones he's used to facing, and he's going to just tool him up for 3 rounds. Moving on up the card, Jared Gordon versus Danny Chavez, the Colombian warrior. Danny Chavez, I like this guy, and I believe he will get the job done against Jared Gordon. He is opened as a slight favourite over Jared Gordon. I think that's because of his last performance against TJ Brown. He showed great takedown defense in that fight. Amazing takedown defense in that fight. Great reactionary hips. Gets him right out there. He's a very fast twitch muscle fiber guy. Good leg kicks, good punches. Crisp, sharp combination. He trains at a good gym as well. I like this guy, Danny Chavez. I do believe he gets it done over Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon, the older guy, got a win against Chris Fishgold, but it was sloppy in the first 2 rounds. Pretty even, but he was getting the better of the grappling exchanges. Eventually put it on in the third. But Danny Chavez, training at MMA Masters, good team. I'll read you out some of the names of people that train there as well, including someone who's also on this card in Rafael Alves. I need to remember that. He's not even on the list. Okay, he's on the main card. Rafael Alves is on the main card. Training partner of Danny Chavez. They're going to be training for each other in this bout. They've got Anthony Rocco Martin. They've got Colby Chaos Covington now. Like, they've got a good gym around them. Ilya Tapuri is there. Miguel Beza is there. Like, there's just a lot of great names around those divisional areas. And I think Danny Chavez is going to go out there and put on a great performance. He's got momentum right now on a 4-fight win streak. And I do believe he gets the job done against Jared Gordon. Gordon's an okay underdog, though. He could go out there and maybe be a bit better at grappling than TJ Brown, and that's enough to get the win over Danny Chavez. But Chavez, I believe, took his last fight on short notice. Now he's going to have a full camp. Even if it wasn't on that short of notice, it was not that long of a camp that he had for his last fight with TJ Brown. They kind of put the fight together at, like, not too long before the fight to make the fight happen and make the card happen overall. But I feel like Danny Chavez is going to get the job done here over Jared Gordon. He's got great reactionary hips to take down attempts, great leg kicks as well. I can just see him beating down an old version of Jared Gordon and beating him by maybe decision, but not really a close one. I think he's going to really piece him apart, chop at the legs early. That's going to change the way that Jared Gordon fights. He's not going to have the same push for those takedowns, which is why Danny Chavez goes for those calf kicks, stop the push on the takedowns, and eventually Jared Gordon will have nothing left and Chavez will start piecing him apart to a unanimous decision win. Wouldn't even be surprised if we see some 10-8 rounds in there as well. Moving on up the card, Andrei Arlovski versus Tom Aspinall is headlining the prelims of this card. That is crazy. Andrei Arlovski wins a co-main event of a fight night, gets sent to the prelim headliner. I know why they're doing this, though. They're wanting UK viewers to be able to be awake to watch Tom Aspinall, because he's the UK guy right now. I think he will get the job done over Andrei Arlovski. I really do see that happening. I think he's going to go out there, land great combinations, piece apart Andrei Arlovski in the first round and get the TKO. I like Andrei Arlovski, but that chin is there to be KO'd. It's just who's going to be the guy to be able to do it. Is it Tanabosa? No, it's not. Is it Jairzinho? Yes, it is. Like, there's just certain guys that can get past that test, and there's other guys who can't. I think Tom Aspinall's technicality will win him this bout because he's not like Tanner Boser. He's a bigger guy. He's of the same frame as Andrei Arlovski. Wouldn't even be surprised if he's a little bit taller than Andrei Arlovski in there. He's got the reach advantage as well. These are all things that Tanner Boser did not have against Andrei Arlovski. He was the smaller guy. He was looking to find his way on the inside, throw hooks over the top. Couldn't really get it done. I still thought Tanner Boser beat Andrei Arlovski because he like doubled him on strikes in every single round, but Arlovski landed a clean punch every round that made the judges pick him for some bizarre reason. But I do believe that Tom Aspinall is going to go out there, land that 1-2 down the pipe, and rock Arlovski badly in the first round. It's just the technicality of it. I don't like guys who swing randomly, and Boser started doing that in the bout, but Tom Aspinall never really swings hooks whatsoever. He's come from a boxing background, used to train with Tyson Fury, of all people, used to be a training partner of Tyson Fury, wanted to do boxing, couldn't get any opponents in boxing in the UK, came back to MMA, couldn't get any opponents in MMA, went back to boxing, couldn't get any opponents there, and then Cage Warriors said, hey, we'll sort you out and get you some opponents and get you to where you want to be in your career. And Tom Aspinall's been doing really good since then. He hasn't fought great levels of competition so far. It's kind of hard to tell how and where he is. But he's not just one-punch KOing people, though. Like, it's combinations, it's clean setups. Against Alan Badeau, he rocked him and showed great fight IQ to hurt him against the cage. Sees trying to throw spinning stuff and get the takedown afterwards. He's got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, just to add on to all of the striking credentials he has and all of the training partners he's been with in the past. I believe Tom Aspinall's going to land the 1-2 down the pipe early and clean on Andrei Arlovski. And just being the same frame as Arlovski is going to give him that advantage that a shorter guy in Tanner Boser is going to find it more difficult to do. You know what I mean? Like, Tanner Boser's got to find his way on the inside, land those hooks over the top of Arlovski's shots. Aspinall's got to land a 1-2 down the pipe and it might be over. I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall by first round KO. I believe in him. He's got a bit of reach advantage as well over Andrei Arlovski, so we're just another bit later into Arlovski's career, and every single month that goes by, his chances get lower of winning fights. I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall by KO in the first round. Moving on to the main card, but wait. The main card opener is not on the list of the $4 billion company's Google page. It is Rafael Alves versus Pat Sabatini. Now, I've seen a picture of this Pat Sabatini. His reach is not recorded, but I'm going to have a sneaky suspicion and say that his reach is minimal numbers, okay? And I feel like Rafael Alves is going to have a huge reach advantage. Yeah, taking this fight at 145, Rafael Alves has fought at lightweight before in his career. He's got a ton of losses, 19-9, but his last few fights, he's really started to piece things together, and his name is Rafael the Turn Alves. I think he called himself that. I don't know about this story, but I believe he probably called himself that because recently he's made a real turnaround of a career. Seriously, he's beat some really good opponents in his last few fights. I'll read some of their records right now. Over at Titan FC, the Contender Series, 17-2 guy, Alejandro Flores. Got the guillotine in the second round. Got a TKO in the second round against Felipe Douglas. I do believe he's going to get the job done against Pat Sabatini here, who also is quite good. Little bit okay, lost some fights by arm injury, a little bit of a weird career, had a split decision loss as well, hasn't really beaten anyone too amazing in his career so far, and I feel like Rafael Alves having a full camp here against a short notice Pat Sabatini, sorry, is going to get the job done. His legs are fucking crazy, Rafael Alves. Like, he's built like a fucking brick shithouse, in all honesty. I think he's going to go out there, chop the legs, do what he wants. If the submissions are there, he's got submissions of his own. He's not bad in the submission area. He got submitted earlier in his career, but that started to sort of fade away, and he's taking on better competition. I trust that he's improving right now, and I trust his chances over Pat Sabatini, who's got it on a week's notice. I think Rafael Alves wins this one. I'll say by late rounds, TKO or finish against a gassed out Pat Sabatini, who's not getting his own way with the grappling, maybe. Who knows? I'm going to go with Rafael Alves by TKO in the later rounds. Little bit of an unknown fight on the card. It's hard to really predict it, but I will go with Alves getting the job done. Moving on. Up the card, Nassourdine Imavov versus Phil Hawes. The greatest porn star name in history. Phil Hawes. Right, I'm undecided on this. Fuck's sake. I'm going to go with Nassourdine Imavov. I am. He's bigger as a welterweight. He came up at welterweight. He's fought better competition. The only reason I don't like this is because the odds have kind of like watched my prediction videos and now they're changing their odds, which is annoying me because I had Nassourdine Imavov as an underdog, and what I would say here is weight. Because they put them at evens, people are going to see the KO of Phil Hawes come fight week. They're probably going to post it on the UFC Instagram on Monday or something like that and show him knocking out Jacob Malkoun, who just shit his pants as soon as the fight started. Let's be real. Have you watched that fight with Jacob Malkoun and Phil Hawes? Jacob Malkoun literally didn't want to be there the second that fight started. I do believe that Nassourdine Imavov's going to get the job done. He's just fought better competition. And not only has he fought better competition, but he also has fought better competition on momentum. Phil Hawes has fought competition on the slide. You look at his opponents. Kazuhermat Bestayev. Great win to get, but look at his record. He lost 2 fights before that to Blake Troop by TKO, and Manyfield got him as well by TKO. I don't even know what that was to. It doesn't say, but it was by TKO apparently. So, not too good. He was coming off a win over a guy who was 1-8, and then Phil Hawes goes out there and gets the job done over him. I don't like the selective picking of opponents here. Yuri Fraja was a guy who's 13-10 at the time. Like, that doesn't really mean anything whatsoever to me for you to be getting a win over a man with a record like that. Jacob Malkoun shat his pants. I'm going to go with Nassourdine Imavov. He's taken on great opponents at welterweight, which is a much more talent-stacked division than middleweight overall, so to come up in that division is a little bit tougher than to come up in the middleweight division. It's just, do you pick, if you're going to pick Phil Hawes, put money on him by first round KO. I don't think he's going to win this as the fight goes on. Nassourdine's got the better cardio. He beat Jonathan Meunier, and this is what I'm talking about here. Meunier only lost to Colby Covington. Came back, won 2 fights, one guy 9-4, one guy 5-0, then loses to Nassourdine Imavov in the first round by TKO. Colby Covington, only a couple of years before, finished him by 3rd round rear naked choke. I know Colby has a different style, but Nassourdine Imavov can hang with these top guys and put on great performances against them, much like top welterweights that we've seen. I think he's very underrated, extremely underrated in fact. He's got a little bit of a reach disadvantage, but he's a taller guy. I think he'll hold Hawes against the cage in the early rounds, see how strong he is, try and test him out there. He showed great cardio on short notice as well against Jordan Williams, where he took the fight as a welterweight jumping up and still beat Jordan Williams, who was a favourite at the time and had a full camp. So I think him given enough time, this is an evens bout, so this is one where you're going to have to try and make money here. Given enough time, Nassourdine Imavov is going to have a full camp here, which he has. He's going to have built himself more into a middleweight than his last performance, where he beat Jordan Griffin, which is better than any win on Phil Hawes' record. I believe he'll get the job done here. Late rounds finish. I'll say 3rd round or late 2nd round. TKO to ground and pound. He'll hold Hawes against the cage in the early round. If Hawes looks to close the distance, I think he'll look to clinch with him, try and wear him out, and then eventually as the rounds go on, he'll get the job done. He's a much younger guy, 25 years of age compared to the 32-year-old Phil Hawes. Nassourdine Imavov gets the job done. Moving on up the card, Alexei Oleinik versus Chris Daukaus. Looking forward to this one, man. 31 minutes and counting. Jesus, how do I do it? Oleinik versus Daukaus. I'm going to go with Chris Daukaus getting the job done with momentum on his side. I think he's got good KOs in a row now. He's going to get the win against Alexei Oleinik by KO as well. I can see him doing what Walt Harris did and just going out there and getting real fast, real quick with the hands, starting very early in the fight, not letting any sort of settling time for Alexei Oleinik in there. Just going straight for him, trying to land some combinations. I think he will land those combinations. He's shown he has one-punch KO power. He does have a reach disadvantage here over Alexei Oleinik, who has an 80-inch reach at 6'2" as a white man, which is fucking crazy. Actually, now I'm seeing that. I don't even think that's true, but then again, he actually does have fucking long arms, so fair play. He's called the boa constrictor, I guess. 76-inch reach for Chris Daukaus, little bit of a disadvantage. I just think his footwork's what makes him so good, because he's landing combination punches in his fights. Got a combination finish over Parker Porter in his debut, the legend himself, mixing in some combinations, moving his feet in between, switching stances in between. It's just so good to see he makes up for that reach disadvantage here with his footwork to find his way on the inside, and I think he does catch Alexei Oleinik in the first round. Oleinik was doing good against Derrick Lewis. He's got good grappling. Daukaus is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's been submitted before in his career, early though. I'm going to go with Daukaus by TKO here, early in the fight. First round KO. Oleinik in his last fight, it was such a bad loss. It wasn't like a flatline KO. It was like a pounding of an unconscious body. And that's not okay. And not only was it a pounding of an unconscious body, it was a pounding of an unconscious body by Derrick Lewis. Not only was it a pounding of an unconscious body by Derrick Lewis, it was an illegal blow pounding of an unconscious body by Derrick Lewis all of those final shots were to the back of the head. They completely cover it up with the camera angles and stuff like that. But you can see Lewis literally looks down at the back of his head, even earlier in the fight, and then even at the end of the fight to get the finish, and pounds the fuck out the back of his head. As a 43-year-old guy, to take a loss like that where you're getting pounded constantly unconscious, I don't like that coming into this bout. He hasn't taken enough time off, in my opinion, and I think Daukaus is going to go out there and get the TKO with momentum on his side and confidence on his side, getting the finish in round 1 by KO. Moving on up the card, Charles Rosa versus Darrick Minner. I'm going to go with Charles. Why is this on the main card? I'm going to go with Charles Rosa, sorry. I don't mean to trash it here. Jesus, this card is not okay. Charles Rosa is going to get the job done. I'll say by unanimous decision. I don't think he gets a finish over Darrick Minner. He's a very good fighter, however. Darrick Minner got a win over TJ Laramie. Before that, he lost both of his bouts, but he's actually okay. I know a lot of people sort of poop on him because he's 25-11, which is okay to do because that's not a very amazing record. However, when you look at some records like Masvidal's, it's not a bad record. It's just not against the same level of competition as Masvidal's and other fighters like this. He's been fighting the regional guys, lost a whole bunch of fights. He's been submitted a couple of times. He's been KO'd a couple of times. I don't like his chances here. He's beat some decent opponents. He's lost to some decent opponents. Just seems a little bit too inconsistent for my liking. Got submitted by Herbert Burns. Got submitted by Grant Dawson. Charles Rosa is a savage black belt. I know Mitchell made him look like a fool. Something I want to mention here, though, is that he escaped all of those submissions against Mitchell. I know that everyone looks at the fight and says, man, Mitchell ran a clinic on him. I said it as well. Man, Rosa's not good. Mitchell completely dominated him start to finish. Mitchell had him in so many submission holds, and Rosa stayed so calm every single time, found his way out of them, tried to get back to his feet, couldn't do it. It was one-sided by Bryce Mitchell start to finish, but Rosa stayed alive in there against a savage on the ground and showed that he has that jiu-jitsu in his back pocket to escape those positions. You're not going to submit this guy, and I feel like that's the only way that Darrick Minner's got a chance to win nowadays. I think that Charles Rosa goes out there and it's just a striking battle for 3 rounds. Neither guy wants to take it to the ground, and Rosa pieced him apart for 3. Rosa's got great stand-up. Amazing stand-up. You saw that in the Shane Burgos fight. He was beating Shane Hurricane Burgos. Hurricane Shane Burgos. You know? The guy who everyone's picking to beat Dawoodu next. Like, he was the guy who went to almost a draw with Josh Emmett, but it got given to Josh Emmett. He's very good, man. Charles Rosa is very underrated. I know he's a little bit older, but I think he gets the job done here. He's a taller guy. He's a more muscle-bound guy. I think he'll get the job done by unanimous decision, 30-27, landing more than Darrick Minner every single round because he outlanded Shane Burgos in that round. He's got great kicks. If you're trying to take him down, it's a bit of a problem. I don't see Darrick Minner having that offensive grappling that a guy like Bryce Mitchell has. So I think Rosa's going to be a lot more free to land those calf kicks, to land those body kicks, to land those head kicks on Darrick Minner. He beat Kevin Aguilar in his last fight. I know people don't like the decision, but I saw it as Rosa clearly outlanding him every single round, and the stats help me say that as well. I think Rosa clearly won against Kevin Aguilar. And Kevin Aguilar, if you don't KO him early, he's a dangerous guy. He's got a lot of experience. Beating him by decision, to me, is kind of more impressive than Tukugov catching him in the first round. And I think that Charles Rosa is going to get the job done against Darrick Minner by 3 rounds, piecing apart on the feet. Moving on. To the co-main event of a fight night. Ketlen Vieira versus Yana Kunitskaya. Ketlen Vieira is going to win the fight, probably. I know this. I think she does get the job done here over Yana Kunitskaya. She's fought better competition. I know she's lost before in her career by KO to Irene Aldana. Maybe there's a chance that happens here, but Yana Kunitskaya doesn't really have too much KO power. She kind of just holds you against a cage, so it's kind of, do you feel like Ketlen Vieira is going to not be able to be held against a cage? And she went to a split decision win against Kat Zingano, who's got great grappling. Sarah McMahon has got phenomenal grappling and wrestling for the division, and she submitted her in the second round with an arm triangle choke. That's a big brother, or a big sister move in this case, to do that to a wrestling phenom in Sarah McMahon for her gender. And I think she'll get the job done here by unanimous decision, just by not being able to be muscled around by Yana Kunitskaya here. Kunitskaya holds girls against the cage. That's what she trains a decade for. That's what she trains a decade of her life to do. More than a decade, sorry, actually 22 years, 23 years probably with training included. She's got a lot of experience. I just don't see her being able to hold I don't see her being able to hold Ketlen Vieira against a cage like she always does to every single one of her opponents. And I think Vieira's going to start piecing her apart on the feet a bit and moving her backwards, being a bit more of a physically imposing fighter in there and get the job done by unanimous decision, winning every single round slightly 30-27 by not being able to be muscled around like these other girls have been. Moving on to the main event. Here we go. Curtis Blaydes versus Derrick Lewis. Wonderful. Wonderful fight indeed. I believe Curtis Blaydes goes out there and gets this done. I don't see a way that Derrick Lewis wins this one, and other than being Derrick Lewis. The only way Derrick Lewis wins is if he becomes more of Derrick Lewis and just goes out there and somehow pulls it off as an underdog. Because Lewis is not that good, okay? And I don't know if I'm jinxing this right now. I might be. But I don't see Lewis losing this. Wait, I'm being mind controlled. Give me a second. Blaydes is obviously going to win. Blaydes is going to win this bout. He's going to take down Lewis, smash his face in. I think he'll get a TKO finish in the second round. I think he knows he needs to get a TKO finish as well, which is a huge deal here because he needs to really establish himself as the top contender right now in the heavyweight division. And if he goes out there and has a Volkov-esque fight, I think it's going to be a big problem. I think Curtis Blaydes has got 10 times better grappling than Derrick Lewis. He's fought great grapplers in his career non-stop. He's ragdolled them. Alexander Volkov showed great takedown defense, but even he wasn't able to do anything about it. JDS was able to stuff some takedowns, but JDS's takedown defense is so underrated. He ragdolled Shamil Abdurakhimov, he ragdolled Justin Willis. He even in the first fight with Ngannou was getting Ngannou to the ground and scoring takedowns there. Against Alistair Overeem, he got him down, and Alistair Overeem has great takedown defense. He's just a dominant fighter, and I do believe he goes out there and gets it done here. Beat Alexei Oleinik as well up. Got a doctor stoppage in the second round, but was beating him up as well on the ground. I do believe that he gets the job done over Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis is good. He's got power, but Blaydes moves his feet on the stand-up department. Good footwork, good jabs, good feints. He's fast, he's in and out. He doesn't plod forward like an Oleinik does and looks for big looping shots with Derrick Lewis. He doesn't plod forward like an Ilir Latifi and look for big looping shots or a takedown against Derrick Lewis. He doesn't plod forward and look for big looping shots like Blagoy Ivanov did against Derrick Lewis. He stays on his feet, in and out movement, pump, jab two, goes for the takedown when he finds the opening. I think he'll eventually bait Lewis into swinging that big haymaker against the cage, duck right underneath it and get a takedown, and then it's just going to be all over from there. As soon as he gets Lewis to the ground, he'll establish position and completely dominate him, because I'll tell you this, if a lightweight in Ilir Latifi can control you on the ground for the fucking large part of 15 minutes and you somehow pull out a win, Derrick Lewis, I believe that Blaydes gets you there and he finishes you. I think I'll go with Blaydes by TKO. In the second round, Lewis will defend for a while, but I think this is a little bit of a funeral arrangement for him, and Lewis will lose by TKO in round 2. I would rather Lewis won because he's a bigger name, and also I feel like it kind of saves the heavyweight division right now, because if Blaydes wins, you have to give him a title shot, and you've got Jones looking for the winner of Ngannou Miocic 2. It's a little bit of a shambles right now at heavyweight, but I do believe that Blaydes has got the footwork on the feet, the IQ in the fight, and the takedowns in the fight as well to completely school Derrick Lewis in the grappling, in the stand-up, and just beat him in every area. I think Blaydes definitely gets this one done. The money's to be made by an early TKO, I would say, because he doesn't go for submissions ever. I don't think he has a single submission in his entire career. I'd go with a TKO from Curtis Blaydes if I wanted to make some money here. Thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe. Going with Curtis Blaydes. I dare you, Derrick Lewis. I dare you. I actually dare Derrick Lewis to somehow pull this one off. Blaydes is going to ragdoll him and beat him pretty easily. Thank you for watching the video. Click that button up there. Like and subscribe. I'll see you later. Toodle pip.